Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece chapter 1091 is out. If you guys haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. But now that you have, let's begin. It's not often that I am 100% right, but this chapter was an exception to the rule. I feel like I'm finally inside Oda's brain, you know? This chapter also justified pretty much every video that I've made over the last couple months. You know, sometimes I worry about repeating myself too much because, and this just happens sometimes, no matter how good you feel about an idea, and this could be any idea, no matter how good you feel about it, it could be wrong. And then suddenly, if every video is related to it, you know, it's just a bad look. It feels bad, man. But anyway, if you missed those videos, then shame on you, go watch them. You know, we're just talking about the parallels pre and post time skip, essentially, in various in-depth ways, using it to speculate. And it's not really easy to do because things are paralleled, right? There's similarities between the pre and post time skip, but there's also differences. But managing and balancing the fact that both of these things are true simultaneously is no easy task. I always struggle so much when I try to explain this in videos. It's the same, but it's also different. And I know people wonder just how much I'm smoking on that particular day. Formulating ideas, knowing that Oda is going to take certain elements of a scene and then alter other ones, it's really just a creative endeavor on my part a lot of the times of like what makes sense, you know? What feels like One Piece, what feels like it'd be good. But anyway, having a chapter that is just so obviously inspired by the pre-time skip really solidifies that idea and I think helps justify the fact that I made videos, a ton of videos talking about it, which I enjoyed. But on a small scale as well, we pretty much called what Oda was going to do in the here and now. We said, look, there's an opportunity here for Luffy to have a Rayleigh moment. Kizaru is here. We compared what's going on now in Egghead to Sabaody. And you guys know Rayleigh stepped in and saved the Straw Hats, right, when they weren't able to fight Kizaru. Well, now they're able to fight Kizaru. Luffy has an opportunity, and I think that it would have been not a great decision to avoid the hype that is Kizaru. Like, Luffy fighting directly against an admiral, why wouldn't you do that? And at the same time, you can emphasize the journey, right? Where we're at now, it's different. So yeah, straight up, you have your Luffy Rayleigh moment, and I enjoyed every second of it. But once again, while there are things that are parallel, that are pretty much one for one, look, we're taking the same concept, things are twisted as well. In this case, Luffy being the person to fight Kizaru is a twist. You know, student becomes master, right? But there's other things as well that are happening simultaneously in other parts of the chapter, which we discussed in the last chapter review, such as there is a parallel, a comparison to be made to the current events and Ohara. You guys already know, when things are even slightly similar, my ears perk up. But we have Kizaru and he has a relationship with Sentomaru. And, you know, we question initially, how is Kizaru going to deal with Sentomaru? How is he going to react to this? Is he going to have the heart to actually beat him? And then what occurs after that? Is Kizaru's heart really in the fight at all? And it reminds you of Aokiji and Jaguar D. Saul. So that's your parallel, but you also have to look for your twist. And I think the twist is justified here in the fact that Aokiji and Kizaru are not the same character. So it's natural, even if they're in the same circumstances, roughly, for them to act differently. So let's bold the lines a little bit. The whole point of what Jaguar D. Saul was doing is Jaguar D. Saul was trying to protect someone that was important to him. And his enemy was his friend from the past, Aokiji. Aokiji defeated Jaguar D. Saul. Although Saul probably lived, right, he was still defeated, and Aokiji had a choice. Do I fulfill my duties as a Marine Admiral and kill child Nico Robin or not? And he decides to let her go because his friend was trying to protect her. And this is all justified because Aokiji at this point is not entirely sure what to believe. The fact that his friend believed in something so strongly, Aokiji needed to know, you know, if that would come true. He needed to know whether or not Nico Robin was a person worth saving. And the only way for him to deduce this was to let her grow up, although he observed her from afar in the years that followed. So some of the variables have changed, but Sentomaru is trying to protect somebody. Vegapunk. And I want to make sure that you guys notice this because Oda does this. There's a lot of people that like, you think too much about One Piece. No, I do not. You don't think enough about One Piece because Oda is a literal genius. Most everything is done intentionally. Nico Robin was a child with her whole life ahead of her. Vegapunk is an old man nearing the end of his own. Nico Robin hadn't even begun to tap into her potential as a person, or really, like anything that her life could have to offer to the world. Vegapunk has already contributed to the state of the world. The fear with Nico Robin is that the knowledge that she possesses will awaken, essentially create, weapons that will destroy the world. Her existence was too dangerous because of the knowledge that she possessed. And the incredible irony that the government literally supported and funded Vegapunk, who has awakened, essentially created, weapons that will destroy the world. They were going to kill Nico Robin because of what she might be able to do, while they allowed for Vegapunk to actually do it. And so we're put in what is essentially the same exact scenario, where a Marine Admiral must decide whether or not to protect somebody who is considered to be a danger, and their own personal connections potentially stand in the way. But these specific personal connections are twisted, almost straight up inverted. These foils are purposeful, but Oda is not just doing it on one level, he is doing it on like 3 or 4 different levels simultaneously that I can discuss, which is incredible. Like, you guys already know that I'm a big nerd, but like specifically, I look at this sort of writing, the actual craft of it, the art of it. I get as much enjoyment from this as anything else that you could possibly do, like from the narrative itself and emotional beats and yada yada. And honestly, it inspires me quite a lot. Like, I notice these things and I try to build it into my own writing. So I would say that that is the literal definition of being inspiring to me. And yeah, this chapter really captures that. One of the things that we speculated in the last chapter reaction was, yes, there's similarities between Kizaru and Aokiji, parallels there, but I felt like Oda was going to twist Kizaru. And my guess was it's basically going to be a combination of the 2 admirals which really mattered in Ohara. Aokiji is obviously one half of that, but the other half is Akainu, and Akainu would make no bones about eliminating anybody and everyone, not just who he knows possesses the ability to read the Poneglyphs, but people that could even have a slight chance of it. He killed them all. And it seems like we're setting up that way with Kizaru. As a combination of Aokiji and Akainu, he's got the personal connections, and there's things from this chapter which I think make it clear that Kizaru is not really a happy person. He is unlike Akainu in that Akainu really revels in the absolute justice of it, in the thorough justice. That's actually a straight up foil between Akainu and Aokiji. They're polar opposites in this respect. Akainu believes strongly in what he believes. And Aokiji is, at least initially, doubtful of everything, uncertain. And, it's kind of natural. Kizaru is the third wing here is somewhere in the middle. We hadn't heard Kizaru laugh at all in the entire story until this chapter, and we saw it in a flashback. And that is a singular tiny panel there, conveys so much information, again, masterful, at how much really can be communicated in such a simple way. It just tells you that Kizaru is not the person that he was in the past, and a lot of the joy of life has been stripped from him. As he said in the last chapter, he feels like he is just a cog in the machine, and it's out of his control, which is also an interesting fact by itself. I mean, he is a Marine Admiral. He should be very powerful and influential, but he doesn't act like he feels as though he is free. And this is something that Garp specifically commented on. He was asked, or it was stated that he could have become a Marine Admiral, but the reason that he didn't is he liked the freedom of being a Vice Admiral. And I think that Kizaru straight up gave his perspective in the chapter. If he had his way, if he was the one who made the rules, then he would have added former friends among the things that need to be protected from Egghead. But again, subtle context here, he doesn't have that power. He doesn't get that say. He doesn't make the rules. But I have a hard time saying that he is okay with this. To me, and we'll obviously find out, I think that we'll find out, but it just seems like Kizaru believes that it is inevitable or unavoidable. It just is. He is a tool. But regardless of the reasons, the same effect that Akainu had in Ohara is created here, which is basically that if Kizaru is allowed to survive and fight, then all of the people, the residents of Egghead and Vegapunk themselves, are going to die. I mean, that was a really cool part of the chapter itself, the panel, where you see Kizaru say that Vegapunk is the prime target. I mean, I got from this that Kizaru will absolutely kill Vegapunk, although I am not convinced that he has killed Sentomaru. And this goes to my perception that Kizaru is a very subtle rebel, that he follows the rules and acts as ordered, but bends it where he thinks that he can. And parts of it are an act, like Kizaru is not an idiot. He knows where his Denden Mushi is. If he doesn't want to do something, suddenly he's forgotten something critical, and just plays it off. Subtle rebel. A book series that I really liked in my childhood, would recommend to this day, is the Bartimaeus trilogy. And in that world, wizards essentially summoned demons, but there was cool rules by which they operated, which is that the wizards had to be very careful about the commands given to the demons that they summoned, because if the commands were 100% on point, the demons would utilize this to kill them, eat them. So they were slaves, but they were more powerful than the wizards, and it's a very interesting dynamic. But throughout that story, the main demon character is always trying to twist words and phrases and commands in every possible way to escape his shackles. And I would say I get the same impression from Kizaru. He can't break a direct command, but he can misinterpret a vague command. And this dynamic also makes me think positively of Kizaru despite anything that he might do. He's just not in control. And that leads me to believe that overall, Kizaru is not going to accomplish anything truly evil in this arc. My opinion. I think that, given the opportunity, he would kill Vegapunk. I just don't think that he's going to have that opportunity, because as we see at the end of the chapter, Rayleigh moment Luffy arrives, Kizaru will now fight Luffy, and Kizaru already stated that he can't avoid a fight like this. I presume that this applies to Luffy, and I don't think that Luffy is going to lose. Just an important concept in One Piece, but your will matters. Obviously, will is associated with, tied to Haki. The strongest people in the world have insanely strong wills. It's why Akainu will definitely surpass what we have seen prior from Kizaru and Aokiji, because he believes in what he is doing. And the fact that Kizaru might have any doubts, I think inherently makes him weaker, even if conceptually he is just as strong as Luffy. But honestly, let's just avoid this power scaling can of worms, like how strong are the admirals versus the Yonko, a debate as old as time itself. In this case, it really doesn't matter. It truly doesn't matter. You don't need to think that deeply. The fact is that Kizaru cares about Sentomaru, he cares about Vegapunk, and because of that, he cannot possibly be fighting at full strength. Kizaru is nerfed, and Luffy is a Yonko now. The only way that Kizaru would stand a chance of defeating him is if he believed in what he was fighting for, and there's no way that is true. So he will lose. And this isn't unusual in the story. This takes me back to the end of Whole Cake Island. There was a lot of adverse reaction initially to the end of the Luffy Katakuri fight, even from me, until it was really understood. It took me a while, just straight up. But eventually it's just absurdly clear that Luffy didn't really defeat Katakuri. Like, if that had been a legit fight, and if Katakuri had been interested in killing Luffy, Luffy wouldn't be here any longer. I don't think that that's an opinion personally. What happened is that Katakuri wanted to break Luffy's will, not kill him. And he tried to do that, but couldn't. And by the end, essentially Luffy made him realize, or something about this whole situation, it dawned on Katakuri that he wanted Luffy this person that he'd grown to know through the battle, he wanted Luffy to defeat his mother. And it's not because he hates his mother. It's actually because he loves her. It's because he wants his mother back. So they have this final battle. Luffy gives the last of his strength. They both fall down. Katakuri is the first one to get back up, because Katakuri really isn't defeated. Not in the normal sense of what that means, but he has lost the will to continue. So he gets up, and then he falls back down. This is honestly one of the most profound ways that you can win a battle. Not just because you beat your opponent to a pulp, but you've literally stolen the reason why they would want to continue. And I honestly expect something similar to occur with Kizaru. When asked why Luffy doesn't kill his opponents, Oda said this: "The reason Luffy doesn't kill is in his era, men live by their beliefs and risk their lives to defend them. Luffy shatters the beliefs of his enemies by defeating them. For them to suffer defeat and to have their beliefs destroyed is as bad as death." So when talking specifically about Kizaru, it's important to ask what it is that he believes. And if you asked me, if I were to encapsulate this in as I can, it just feels as if Kizaru is hopeless. He doesn't see the world finding a better way. Perhaps he thinks that the world government is necessary, a greater good, so to speak. And maybe he also believes that they are inevitable, an unstoppable force. This is simply how the world is. Fighting it is useless. He himself is as strong as it is possible to be, and even somebody like him is powerless in the face of this fate. There is no point to dream. So of course what Luffy is going to accomplish with this fight, I think, is he might give Kizaru some hope, which is of course the way to shatter his beliefs. So this is what I think is going to happen. I think overall we're going to be left with a real feel-good sensation after Luffy defeats Kizaru. Maybe in a way it can be the kind of defeat that a lot of people thought that Kaido might get at the end of Wano. He's happy to have been defeated, and will essentially be rooting for Luffy going forward. But that doesn't mean that there isn't going to be a lot more drama before we leave Egghead, and I'm still here for every moment of it. This was just frankly my chapter. It appealed to me in every way that you could possibly imagine. And, I don't really feel like talking about other stuff. In the last couple of reviews, we've, gone along our bigger train of theories. Obviously, you need to be thinking about Blackbeard right now. When it comes to the pacifistas switching, that was something that I thought was really cool, also inevitable. I actually thought that it was going to be the Celestial Dragon, the member of the Gorosei, that would do that. Instead, it was Kizaru, which is a little underwhelming, but I'm sure that the Gorosei is going to show up eventually. His presence is important. There's a reason why Oda included him. But this takes us back to Sabaody, where, the Straw Hats are threatened. And specifically, there's people that they still need to protect that are threatened. Fighting Kizaru is only one part of this. And I still think that this arc needs to culminate with something related to Jewelry Bonnie and Kuma. And the fact that the Pacifista might contain the lineage factors of Kuma, and therefore have somewhere deep inside the experiences and memories of Kuma, is probably going to come up. So I could see the Pacifista essentially being stopped by Jewelry Bonnie. Something to that effect, but we'll obviously see. But I suppose the last major thing that we need to talk about is Zoro and Lucci. I love that as well. And also let's get this way out the start. Zoro is going to wash Lucci. That is my opinion. Lucci here seems to be heavily reliant on the fact that Kizaru is present. He wouldn't be doing anything if it weren't for Kizaru, which tells you that Lucci believes in Kizaru. And as we've already discussed, I think Kizaru straight up loses, and so this could be an important moment for Lucci. Talking about how the Straw Hats shatter people's beliefs, what is Lucci's belief about the world government, their power? I so desperately want Lucci to join the good guys. I think I've pretty much expressed that from the start. I like Lucci. I just want him to see the light, and maybe what it would take is the Straw Hats escaping once again, or defeating this great power as Lucci sees it. Maybe this is the only way such a thing could happen. I would classify Egghead as the best that the government can do. It's already established that this puts normal Buster Calls to shame. The amount of ships, vice admirals, but beyond that, in a normal Buster Call, it's just a bunch of vice admirals. We have a literal admiral here. We have a literal member of the Gorosei. We have all of Cypherpole CP0. If that's not enough for them to accomplish their tasks, then can they actually do it? There would never be a better time to question such a thing. But I thought it was really cool that Oda clarified that Lucci hadn't keyed in Kaku to his plans. And Lucci knowing Kaku, not even using him as an ally, tells you a lot about how Lucci thought Kaku's mindset to be. You know, I don't think Kaku is a bad guy or an enemy, although it was really cool that Sanji acted so quickly, taking Nami's bubble gun to trap him anyway. You know, we need more of Sanji with the 9,000 IQ. Big brain Mr. Prince energy. But I won't keep you for any longer than need be for this chapter. I know that the live action comes out in just a day or so, probably less than that by the time that this is uploaded, which is incredibly hype. I will be watching that. I cannot promise you that I will do a video talking about that. Maybe we'll express this at some point in time, but you know, it's I want this more than anything to be successful, and I feel like they've done everything possible for that to even be a possibility. Just crazy. If you told me beforehand that the first live action to ever succeed might be One Piece, I would have told you you're a liar. But here we are. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I'm sure you guys are as well. Get through the review, and then we know what we're going to be watching for the next day or week or so. But yeah, as always, incredible chapter. Egghead, the gift that keeps on giving. As always, curious as to what you guys think. If you notice anything from the chapter that I might have missed, just share your thoughts. Remember to check out my book, The Booms. Volume 1 and 2 is out. Volume 3 will be released on October 4th, and I will soon provide you links so that you may pre-order it. In fact, you can already pre-order the ebook. I guess I'll go ahead and include that if you're interested in reading the ebook. But I put a ton of work into this, guys, and honestly, it is incredibly good. That's my opinion. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, you know, but yeah, I feel that way. So if you guys are interested in checking it out, links are in the description, and if you do happen to read it, leave a review. Let other people know what you think about it. Like the video, subscribe, click the bell to be notified, join the squad, and as always, guys, have a wonderful day.